Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed.
What is up, everybody? My name is James D. Fiore, and this is Blackballed. If you are like me, you strongly prefer that any information that crosses your laptop or your phones that pertain to the illegal Russian invasion of Ukraine comes from sources that are inside Ukraine. It just makes things a lot clearer, more succinct. And I've had Ilya Ponomarenko on the show. Kira Riddick has been on the show as well. And today we have a board member who's from the Anti-Corruption Action Center and the co-founder of the International Center for Ukrainian Victory. And the reason why I was drawn to this person is because on Twitter, I noticed that she often posts the most difficult types of posts, which is to detail the casualties that take place from soldiers within the Ukrainian military and also civilians as well. So I'm really interested in speaking with her today, and I kind of can't wait. So please, would everyone welcome to the show. Her name is Olena Halushka. I believe I got that right. I hope I got that right. Olena, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Can you, first of all, it's nice to meet you, and thank you for taking the time for coming on the show today. Can you give me an idea as to what the Anti-Corruption Action Center is and what their mandate is?
Of course, this is the civil society organization, non-governmental organization, which was established in 2011, so 2 years before the Revolution of Dignity. While its key goal is obviously watchdogging, monitoring how the government is working, but also pushing for the anti-corruption and rule of law related reforms. Because we were operating for 2 years during the Yanukovych period, we can compare how Ukraine dramatically has changed with the Revolution of Dignity that took place in 2013, 2014. And since that time, my organization has been pushing for the establishment of the new anti-corruption agencies for the investigation, prosecution, and trial for the corrupt crooks. We've been pushing a lot on the transparency reforms, like opening up the state registries or introducing the electronic asset declaration system. So we are basically those who are the advocates for the anti-corruption and justice-related reforms in Ukraine.
And is part of the motivation to set up an organization like that centered around the idea of Russian assets being politically active in Ukraine?
Obviously, we've been pushing for the investigation of corruption.
Mm-hmm.
And before this, first of all, before the Revolution of Dignity 2013, 2014, but even after that time, unfortunately, we did have the cases how Russia has been misusing corruption in order to try and influence Ukrainian politics, to try and influence Ukrainian society. So for us, closing the corruption loophole was also about closing the vulnerability of our state towards any external influences of Russia.
Okay. Now, you're also the co-founder of the International Center for Ukrainian Victory. Tell me a little bit about that organization.
Well, that's the center which we established in Warsaw in the first days after the big war started. And its primary focus is mobilizing the world for the Ukrainian victory. As you can see from the name of our organization, we are very clear that Ukraine will win this war. The question which worries us is at which price we will win it and when this will happen. Because every day of fighting, it costs us, as you have already mentioned it in your introductory word, the lives of our best people who are dying on the front lines, the lives of the civilians whom Russia is terrorizing with their missiles, which are fired at peaceful towns across entire country. So for us, it's incredibly important to mobilize the world for supporting our victory, which means sufficient military assistance, which means real, effective, tough sanctions, which means the recovery of the critical energy infrastructure prompt today, not the post-victory recovery, but something like, substations or power transformers or power generating facilities. They need to be repaired immediately after they are damaged, because this is about the liability of the Ukrainian towns. Also, we advocate for the accountability for all of the Russians' acts of aggressions, because we are seeing that today's genocide is taking place because previous acts of Russian aggression in Ukraine in 2014, in Syria, in Georgia, even in Chechnya, they were never punished.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever heard of any nation being punished for the atrocities that they do, but hopefully you'll be able to see justice on that front. Again, when I mentioned at the beginning that I go to your page to feel what a patriotic Ukrainian might feel. That is my motivation to go to your page, because you post things that I think are difficult, but necessary, right? So I don't know how intimately you acquainted yourself with a lot of the casualties that you post, but I'm gonna post a couple and just see if you posted this, I believe it was yesterday, and you say, "Rest in honor, Sergei Maestro, since 2014, he was part of a team of the first voluntary mobile hospital. In 2022, formed its, I don't know how to pronounce that. Sorry. I don't want to, Zitomer?
Zitomer.
Brand, left behind his wife, kids, and parents." And you have a lot of different, like every day, it seems like you're posting stuff like this, which obviously makes it really tragic and sad. But again, I feel a sense of patriotism when I go to your page. Can I ask you if when you post that, how difficult it is, and if you've ever been able to speak with any of the family members of the people that you end up posting?
Well, in fact, most of these people whom I'm posting about, they are either my acquaintances or the acquaintances of my acquaintances. So these are not random people. These are people who are, friends of my friends. And unfortunately, every day that I'm going on Facebook, because Facebook, that's the social media I'm using to stay connected with my Ukrainian friends and acquaintances, I'm every day seeing new casualties. Obviously, I'm regularly in touch with many people who lost their loved ones, their relatives, their friends. A few of my very close friends were also killed in action. And I have to tell you that obviously this is a very big tragedy, because we have to understand that these people, they are actually they are the best of our society. They are present or future business elites, political elites, elites from the creative industries. So these are people with absolutely different professions, with absolutely different backgrounds. Many of them were never military, or many of them joined the army as volunteers in 2014, when Russia first invaded our country. But they all changed their usual, tools of professions, computers, I don't know, guitars, whatever they were doing before the war, and they took up arms because this is our liberation fight, because this is the colonial war of Russia when they try to enslave an absolutely independent nation. And this is the matter of our survival. If your country is going through genocide, you are leaving everything and you are joining the army, and we are losing really the best people. And I think that this is a huge tragedy of our society, and the sooner we get more necessary weapons, the sooner we get more armored vehicles, more infantry fighting vehicles, the more lives of these people we will be saving. Because take a look at what is happening near Bakhmut right now. These people, they are heroes. They are doing real miracles. But if they received modern tanks like Leopard 2 tanks, German tanks, which we have been asking for 10 months since the very beginning of the war, and we still do not have the decision of the German government to transfer these tanks to us, these tanks could be saving the real lives of real people. And I'm sharing these stories because these are not statistics. These are not just, hundreds or thousands of people. These are the lives of our best.
I am, I'm with you, and I can hear it in your voice. I can hear the emotion in your voice. Obviously, I'm sorry that I should have asked you before we went on air if the images were people that you knew, but it just makes me. First of all, I want to let you know that while I can see that your emotion, the number one thing that shines through when I'm talking to you is strength, and I can see it in your face. I can see how proud you are of the people. That that have gone and that have passed away, that were killed by Russian aggression. What's interesting is that when you said that when you mentioned a guitar and how somebody that you knew had to basically trade his musical instrument for a machine gun. It's not something that they signed up for, but they had to do it to prevent genocide in their country. If I put pictures up, or do you think you'll be able to comment on them? These are your pictures.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I have one here. Can you explain what we're looking at?
Yes, of course. This is the family of, they are civilians, and the rocket, Russian missile, hit their house 3 days ago. And that missile, there was a simple residential house in Kryvyi Rih, and that missile killed entire family, mother, father, and their 1.5-year-old son. That family also had another boy, older son, but he was at that moment with their grandparents, so he survived. But entire family is dead, only because of Russian wild terrorism against Ukrainian peaceful towns.
Yeah, that is. I talk about this a lot, about how people in North America, we have no idea of what it's like to have a war in your home country, and how different it is, obviously, than being shipped off to war in a different country. And we're seeing it, we're hearing it in your voice. What it does to a people. I'm going to put another picture up here. Who is this?
That's the friend of one of my acquaintance.
And how did he? Where was he when he was killed?
That was on the east. I do not know, unfortunately, more details.
Okay. And then there was this one that caught my eye. This one I kind of like, because this feels like, the role of women in this war can't be understated, can it?
Yes, of course. I mean, the women are doing amazing job. Many of the women joined military, they joined armed forces. And this story is indeed a very big inspiration, because this is about a young woman being a commander of one of the squadrons at the National Guard of Ukraine. And she's doing great there. And I think that for me personally, she and other women who are serving in the armed forces, they are very, very big inspiration because they are doing impossible. They are very often, showing no less heroism than male servicemen. And I'm very proud. Well, there was the statistics, but I do not remember it, but something like around 20%. Well, I do not want to misinform you, but around there is quite a big percent of women who are serving in the armed forces. And that is really cool because they rock.
Yeah, no, I thought. Listen, I don't know if you guys know over there in Ukraine, but here in Canada, when the war first broke out, the running narrative was that Ukraine didn't stand a chance, and then what we saw, what I thought was one of the most amazing displays of a country just knowing what it needed to do and coming together, and we saw. From where we were looking, we saw an entire nation just sort of become enamored with the idea of fighting against this invader. And I got to tell you, I was so impressed with the Ukrainian people. I can't I don't know if I can articulate it properly because I don't want to sound like I'm just trying to butter you up or trying to give you compliments just because you're here. It's really not like that. I don't think I could, again, overstate how amazing it was to see sort of a David and Goliath story take place with especially when it came to the voluntary civilian force in Ukraine. I had a guy named John Spencer on the show not too long ago. I've had him on twice. He wrote a handbook about urban warfare that your government, your military, printed about 200,000 copies and handed it out to the civilian force specifically. And how proud people like John Spencer and others are that you guys were able to just surprise everybody and push back the Russian offensive. I mean, is it the same over there? Like, are you still able to, I guess maybe this is my question. Are the Ukrainian people still able to find that kind of inspiration that they had at the beginning of the war? Is that still there? Is morale still up?
Of course. I mean, the morale will be up till the very victory because we simply do not have any option of giving up. And when somebody is telling me, the things which you just voiced, I do not treat them as the compliment because I have to tell you that I'm personally very much inspired by the Ukrainian society, by the very unique resilience of Ukrainian people. And right now we are going through a very a complicated new phase of war because as Russia is losing on the battlefield after the successful counteroffensives in the Kherson and in the Kharkiv regions. And as winter was approaching, that in mid-October, Russians started firing missiles at the critical energy infrastructure. And basically they damaged, according to the latest estimations, around 50% of our energy system, mostly electricity system. But electricity system, it is the blood of everything. Yeah. Because without electricity, you might not have heating, because heating system in Ukraine is centralized. And to get the hot water into the batteries, you basically need the pumps to put that water up. In the multi-story apartments. You do not have elevators working. Most of Ukrainians, they have the electric stoves in their homes, meaning that they cannot even cook food. But even despite a very, very difficult conditions for everybody, not only for the servicemen who are in trenches right now in this cold winter, and winters in Ukraine are super cold. They are snowy with minus 15, minus 20 degrees Celsius during the nights. Obviously, this is not a comfortable temperature for spending the nights in trenches, and
Mhm.
people are in their homes without heating, without electricity, even despite this huge immense complicated and hard conditions. Ukrainians are still very convinced that we will win this war, that this is the hardship which we have to endure. And I fully agree with what President Zelensky said, that this his, iconic phrase that without electricity, but without you Russians. And if uh, getting absolutely free from any Russian attempts to colonize us or something like that requires temporary hardships. Ukrainian nation is ready to do this, but I have to stress that the West can help to reduce the sufferings of people. And we are advocating for maximum military assistance, but we are also advocating for the special equipment which is necessary for the restoration and keeping our electricity system operational. So, yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask if you or if the media there are basically connecting the lack of German um, assistance when it comes to things like tanks with the political situation that the Germans find themselves in regarding their dependence on the natural gas supply from Russia?
Well, I have to tell you that with regards to Germans, we all have to recognize that they as a nation have passed an incredible evolution with regards to providing Ukraine with the weapons. Because when we were talking, to them in January, in February, when basically it was already, clear that Russia would invade, and maximum which we could have expect from them was 1,000 helmets. It sounded like a real joke back then, but their stance was that no way, we are not supporting parties of the war. We cannot be sending military assistance. It goes against our understanding of the world, against our values, etc., etc. And today, I mean, I've seen the statistics, public opinion polls just a few days ago saying about the voters of which parties are supporting the supplies of the main battle tanks for Ukraine, so Leopard 2 tanks. And the supporters of the party Greens, which is absolutely pacifistic party,
Yeah.
they are basically the biggest support for these supplies. Meaning that on one hand, and it is very important that we have to acknowledge this progress which German society has passed. But on the other hand, obviously, German government can be doing much more with regards to providing us armored vehicles, with regards to providing us Leopard 2 tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, and we continue advocating for that. And if you ask me about what is the reason for that, I wouldn't probably say that this is the energy dependence on Russian gas, though it is, of course, very important. I would say that the reason more lies in the World War II heritage and the perception of Germans that, they have this debt to Russian people as those who kind of inherited Soviet Union, that once German tanks were assaulting Russian people, so this cannot repeat. And what we are right now trying to explain, that German tanks would never assault Russian people if Russian people would not invade Ukraine, coming in our country, murdering, doing atrocities, killing, continuing these war crimes. In this case, German tanks would be basically saving the lives of Ukrainians, because we are party who are fighting the just war. and we are only defending our sovereignty. We are only defending our land, which is within the internationally recognized borders. And every piece of military assistance which we are receiving, this is not an offensive weapon. This is a defensive weapon, because we are waging the defensive war against Russian aggression, and Russians are waging offensive.
How important has Zelensky's leadership been?
Well, just today, Zelensky visited Bakhmut, which I think is a very powerful move and a very powerful signal towards Ukrainian military. And I think that he's a decent wartime leader. And that's very interesting, because I did not vote for him as the president, and I have opened up him during this big war from an absolutely new angle.
Okay. I know you have to go soon, so I have two more images left, and maybe you can comment on these as they come up. So this is from December 18th.
Yes.
Can you talk about this at all? Or? Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Well, during the last terrorism campaign, when Russians were firing, that was a very massive missile strike, when they fired around 40 missiles at Kyiv. 37 of them were shot down by the Ukrainian military, and one among those 37 was shot down by this young man and his machine gun, which, on one hand, it sounds like impossible, one in the million case, but it happened, and many media wrote about it, and the territorial defense unit he is serving in rewarded him with a state award for this heroic act. And I think that this is just an amazing story, and we also have to be telling, this inspirational cases, this inspirational stories, because that is also something which, from my perspective, has to motivate our Western partners to keep helping us.
That is amazing. So just to recap, he shot down a Russian missile with a machine gun.
Yes.
That is amazing. See, those are the kind of stories where, it makes me like, I've obviously been pro-Ukraine since this whole thing started. I know that Russia is a totalitarian regime. It's led by, I don't call him a madman, because I think Putin is very sane. He's just very evil. He's just one of those leaders that causes mayhem in the world. But to hear a story like that, and to know that that the smaller military is pushing the bigger military back, I love these stories. And so here's the last image that I have before I let you go, and you can let me know what we're looking at.
Yes, unfortunately, that's I didn't know this young man. And this story was published by the Ukrainian Veteran Fund. This is one of the charities which is helping Ukrainian veterans, as you can see from its name. But they are also telling the stories about Ukrainian fallen heroes, and about those who are defending Ukraine on a daily basis. And this story, it struck me very much, because he's so young. He was just 23 years old, and but he was a professional serviceman who already joined military during the war, because you know that our war started not this year. It started in 2014, when Russia invaded Ukraine, occupied Crimea, occupied parts of Donetsk and Luhansk regions. And this young man, he knew basically that at a certain point, this war, the scale of this war might grow up. And he anyway joined military, and he fall with the death of the hero. And I think that the best memory, the best commemoration of his sacrifice would be Ukrainian victory. And that's what we are trying to.
I read the one detail about he died in March, and they didn't find him until October.
Yes,
which is sad for his family. I want to tell you something. Talking to you just for this 30 minutes, I'm super impacted by how you speak and how strong you sound and how patriotic you sound. And I'm really thankful that Ukraine has people like you who have seemed to make it your life's mission to make sure that you are doing whatever it is that you can as Olena to be able to bring victory to your country. So I just want to let you know that I'm very impressed by you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Olena Halushka, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. She was incredible. I hope to have her back, and if she's still listening, you can come back anytime. Like I said in early in the podcast, we have no idea what it is like to have war on our soil. And I think you just saw what it's like for somebody who isn't on the front lines. Olena Halushka kind of embodies that spirit that you hope civilians have when task like stop a former superpower, whatever you want to call Russia, from colonizing your country. Listen to her talk, watch her face when she speaks, and listen to how determined that she is to bring victory to Ukraine. I am super impressed with that individual. And Olena, if you're listening, I'll have you back at any time. Tomorrow on Blackballed, I might have a show tonight, but I'm not sure. But tomorrow, I have the privilege of interviewing he calls himself a heart leader. He's a professional networker, and he's a professional personal brand marketer, and he's also a great public speaker and coach and author. And his name is Bobby Umar, and he's going to be on tomorrow at, I believe, 7:00. I will update you on that when I have that information confirmed. And yeah, we may have a show tonight. We may not. I'm still trying to tinker with a couple of things. I'm going to try to stack this week with as many shows as I can. Wow, I'm really impressed by Olena Halushka. How do you say her name? Halushka. Olena Halushka. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that interview because you saw everything when she was speaking. You saw patriotism, you saw emotion, you saw strength, determination. Basically, she's a hero. So I thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Blackballed.
Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed. Blackballed.